Welcome back to More Than Okay. This series is about anxiety and especially separation anxiety. Now, this is something that we're seeing more and more. Anxiety, we're seeing more and more, but then separation anxiety is a form of anxiety that we are seeing in our school here. And if we're seeing it here, this must be something that lots of people are dealing with. So we have got Sarah Hannah here today, our social worker, and she's going to help us unpack what is anxiety and what is separation anxiety and a toolbox of things that parents can start using today to help with separation anxiety. So welcome to the podcast again, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's back in the saddle, right?
Yep.
We've done this lots of times and it's really great to be back and to be sharing resources with our families because that's what More Than Okay is about. More Than Okay is about helping families to be more than okay. Yeah. And learning about these big feelings like anxiety is something that can really help families.
Absolutely. And not be afraid of it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So we talk about anxiety all the time in the work we do down in the college, but I'd love to hear what your definition of anxiety is, or what is anxiety?
Yeah, in a simple way, it's the body's natural alarm system. So it's preparing us for danger and physical threats. So I guess thousands of years ago, that could have been like a lion or a bear or a snake. And so we go into these things called fight, flight, freeze. And so that's what our body was naturally to do. It's just trying to protect us. However, we're still seeing it today in our modern day with modern stresses. So, for example, it might be work pressure. It could be things like social situations, uncertainty about the future, worry about the future. And it can have those similar physical symptoms.
Yeah. And I often tell, I work with high school students, and I often will tell them that anxiety is robbing the future of your joy.
Absolutely.
Robbing, is that the right way to say it? Robbing.
Like
yeah. And it does, it steals joy from your future because you're worried about things to come. And, you know, life is good and we would really want our kids to really look and have a hope for our future. And anxiety just is a robber of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when we are feeling anxious, what is actually going on in our brains?
So the brain is sending signals to the body and it's preparing it for that response I said before, that fight, flight, freeze. And actually we're getting these stress hormones rise up, which we know is adrenaline and cortisol. And when they're in our body, it really does change how we feel.
Yeah.
So, for example, you might have a quick heart rate. You know, breathing becomes faster. You'll notice a shortness in breath, which is why we'll probably talk about some deep breathing later to help calm our bodies down. Your muscles tighten. That blood moves away from digestion towards the muscles, so we can feel a bit funny in our tummy.
Yeah.
And all of that is our body trying to protect us.
Yeah. Yeah. So just what you've just said is anxiety isn't all in our heads.
No, it's actually quite physical,
Yeah.
as we know. And I think I mentioned before, but some other common places might be your chest. Some people might feel a tightness in their chest, a racing heart, which I said, feeling like you can't get that full breath.
Yeah.
You know, stomach. So you got the butterflies. Some people would describe it as that nausea.
Yeah.
Knots in their tummy or that digestive upset. So feeling like they need to go to the toilet. Shoulders and neck. Some people feel at that tension, feeling tight or stiff. Headaches.
Yeah.
So if we move to our head, feeling foggy, overwhelmed, our hands might get, you know, a bit shaky, restless, fidgety. For many people, they're the first sign too that our body's going into that.
Yep. And I work a lot with first aid. So we've got a great first aid officer here at school and often we communicate quite a bit going, okay, a student's just presented with a headache, but then they've also just it's putting some pieces of a puzzle together about whether this is a physical, whether they're unwell and need to go home, or whether they just need some techniques to help them reduce their anxiety.
Yeah.
So it is really physical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So we can understand anxiety as adults. We can research it and we can understand it. Yeah. How do we explain such a big feeling to kids?
Yeah, and I just, before I go in with a little metaphor, what I think might be helpful, it's not something wrong with us.
Yeah.
It's very natural, very normal. I mean, God created us to have this response.
That's right. We were a little anxious before the video, before starting this morning.
Yes.
And so it's just a natural thing to prepare us for what we need to do.
Yeah. But explaining it to a little kid, it could be like a smoke alarm metaphor.
Yeah.
You know, like smoke alarms are there when a fire comes and we want them to go off. We want to know when there's a fire so we can get everyone in to distinguish it. However, what happens when the toast is burnt? The fire alarm still goes off, but that's
Yeah.
actually our brain telling us that we're going into this threat response and trying to protect us, but we're like, actually, I'm safe. It's only toast. This is anxiety speaking.
Yeah, that's
So,
good. That's great. So it's really normal.
yep. Mm-hmm.
And we need to keep putting that out there. Anxiety is actually really normal. And a little kid starting school,
Yeah.
they're probably going to feel anxious. Or a student starting high school partway through a term, they're going to feel anxious. So we just need to name it and acknowledge it and just coach our kids through how to have such big feelings. How does it feel to be anxious in your body? What does it look like for you?
It's a great question and one I'm very happy to answer. So even just this week, it looked like headaches. I can get quite big headaches. I can feel exhausted. I get this wave of exhaustion and all I want to do is sort of that flight response. I just want to go and snuggle under my blanket and not talk to anyone and hide.
You can't do that in your job.
I know. So it's sort of what might hit me more at home.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes we've got to put our big girl
That's
pants on and
right.
just keep going.
That's right.
And then also I get a bit of a tummy upset. So foods that I normally would be fine to eat, like something a bit more creamy. I was like, I don't go there. I get a bit more of a.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you?
I hold it all in my neck and shoulders and my jaw. So I can just often just through the day just think, oh, my jaw is really sore and have to do some relax, and I just feel it all through here. And then sometimes I'm not breathing deeply. And so it's that reminder to take a few deep breaths, and actually really helps.
It does.
But it's interesting to watch, especially other adults. We also talk to adults who are stressed at the moment or anxious, and how it's just so different for everybody.
Yeah.
And we need to be aware of ourselves so we can, again, name it and work out some really good strategies to reduce that anxiety in our bodies. Something that I know that you use a lot in your space is body signals. Yep. You have the little bears. They're very cute. Can you tell us how body signals can help us with understanding anxiety?
Yeah, so with students, it's helpful to understand the difference between that physical worry, our physical symptoms and our worry symptoms, or our brain system going on. So some simple ways I might do that or explain it to a child is let's be the body detective of our own.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's get a magnifying glass and look for those body clues. So what can I notice right now? How does my tummy feel? And, I might have a little tick and flick. I have a little worksheet that I go through with them. Is it a headache? Is it a heart racing? Is it butterflies? But we can draw a body map and then we sort of write or draw where it feels in
that's great.
our bodies when it comes up. And then one recently that I found as well is the traffic light system, which can be used for a whole bunch of different things. But if we think about the ones, because they typically will present to first aid, which I think you mentioned earlier, we could say red, which is likely a body illness, right? So this is where we do need to tell an adult. So that's some fever, vomiting. This is where we start to differentiate.
Yeah.
Rash, injury, swelling, pain when we're getting touched in that spot. We go down to orange. We're not sure yet. So there's a headache, we're tired, we're nauseous. It could be the start of some virus. Yeah. But it also could be going into that brain alarm, anxiety symptoms. And so then we come down to the green where we've got the pretty obvious. It's the butterflies. It's the fast heart rate. It's the bit shaky, bit tight.
It's the due date. It's the exam. It's the external things that can really trigger us too.
Yeah. And then we can get children to think about it. Okay, where are we in that traffic light system?
Yeah,
and they would say, okay, I think it's a bit orange-green. All right, well, then I go to let's do a bit of a 10-minute experiment. So things that we can do, slow breathing. So in for 4 seconds, out for 6. And some people would say do that 10 times. But I don't know. It might even be a few times, but that's going to help. Cold water on the hands. Oh,
yeah.
I know you've got one.
Yeah, we do. In the office where I work near first aid, we give kids cups of really cold water, and that's when you drink that's touching every part of your digestive system, and it can just give you a reset in just a moment. So I know Mr. Sipe loves the ice water, and we do use it a lot, and it does help. It just, even if it's just a snap back to the present and not be worrying so much. So it does actually help, and there's some lymphatic stuff it does too. So ice cold water can reset you in 45 seconds. Yeah. So that's a great one. Yeah. Yeah.
Even at home too, if you've got that. And then we look at the grounding techniques too. The senses. So if we start to go into that, because we know it's a physical response. So we want to come back into the present. We don't want to be stuck in our body and in our brain. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 you can taste. And then we do a bit of a recheck. Yeah. Okay, was our brain alarm on? Was our, nervous system in? And how are we feeling calmer? And if so, let's head back to class.
Yeah, that's really good and really good to remember. I was actually at a shopping centre recently where they had those things on one of the advertisements. And I thought, well, that's really interesting that we're being told in our common community spaces to notice things and taste things and smell things to reduce anxiety. So it is really something we need to be doing and a really great tip to do. All right. So if we've got parents who have kids who are struggling with anxiety, do you have a simple tool that we can start using straight away? Like they listen to this podcast and they
Yeah.
go and use it with their kids straight away. Is there something?
Yeah, and I think we've already said it, but I think it's still important to keep saying just that deep breathing. You can do it on the way to school. You can do it with your child because it might
Yeah.
be you that also needs a little bit of calming. So
Yes.
might have been a stressful morning. So I just say in again, in and then out for longer. And that longer exhale is actually saying to our body, we're safe, we're okay.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good.
And naming it. There's
Yeah.
a saying that I used to hear a bit, that name it to tame it.
Yeah, that's
We
good.
start to name our feelings and, it's just my body, having a moment. I'm feeling a bit worried about this, but I know I'm safe. I'm okay.
Yeah.
School's safe. I can do this.
Yeah, I did this with a class yesterday. I got my class to just name a feeling that they're feeling at the moment. And it could just be that moment. It didn't need to be for the whole day. And at the end of it, some of my students came and said, it was actually really good just to actually name that I am actually feeling stressed or I am feeling tired or someone felt energetic and I thought, oh, that's actually a powerful thing that we can use anytime just to actually think, how am I feeling? And to just be in your body,
Yeah.
in your mind and just take that moment.
And I think on top of that, it's externalizing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's putting it from our brain out into the atmosphere. And so we can actually go, it's not so scary.
Yeah.
We get stuck in our brain and the worry is just, mountain out of a molehill type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you have some nice takeaway or rounding statement that we can just leave with our listeners that they can take from this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Something I'd like to read is anxiety is something many of us will experience at different times. And when we understand what's happening in our bodies and we learn a few ways to support ourselves, it becomes much more manageable and much less scary.
Yeah, great. This has been a really helpful episode. So thanks, Sarah, for all your wisdom on this. And I think it's really good that we talk about this and that as adults, we learn to identify what anxiousness looks like in our bodies and to be able to name it, but also to empower our kids to do the same thing. And so we're doing these episodes to help families who are struggling with this, with their children or with themselves. And our goal is always that these podcasts help you to be more than okay.